appreciate it, Mr. Chairman, and I'm assuming operating under, it's going to be a long hearing if we're operating under basically 10-minute question times. And it's an interesting time frame here for today. But it's also interesting to me is that we've come back now to something that I've been waiting for a while, because I heard this, and I'm before my question time, and I'm going to have plenty of time. So I'd heard this before we actually started this majority chairmanship, that we were going to reinvestigate the Kavanaugh here. It took almost 12 months, 13 months to get there, but we started that process this morning. It's interesting that the chairman couldn't let it go. Don't want to have a hearing about it, but he'll get it in right now. Again, just the drive-bys of this committee still just amaze me. Let's go back to something that's actually here for you to discuss. Under the criminal wiretap statute, an agent must exhaust other feasible options before seeking a wiretap to a subject, meaning the agent must attempt to seek evidence in less intrusive manner first, assuming it's safe to do so. FISA also requires, albeit not as stringently, that the information sought cannot be obtained through normal investigative techniques. Are you aware whether agents sought to interview Carter Page before seeking a FISA on him?
Congressman, I would just, as to the facts of the Inspector General's report, I would refer to the report itself. I'm very sensitive about not trying to characterize or summarize his findings, just like I don't like it when people do it to my investigations.
And I appreciate it, but let's take it from just a step away from the investigation itself. Should they have tried any other the means before seeking a FISA against Carter Page? And this would be, or Joe Smith, whatever you want to call it. Proper procedure here should be that they have to go through less intrusive means other than going straight to a FISA issue. Would that not be proper procedure?
I think every investigative decision, including the decision about when to seek a FISA wiretap, has to follow specific procedures and safeguards, and it's fact-dependent and fact-specific based on a whole slew of circumstances. So it's hard for me to answer one hypothetical in that regard.
Fact-dependent is also, facts in different cases also don't give you a carte blanche to just bypass rules that are set in place for specific stuff like that.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. I do not think anyone has carte blanche to bypass rules, and I intend to make it painfully clear that that would not be acceptable in the FBI today.
And I appreciate that. And I think that's one of the things that, in discussing this, I do believe that you have set forth and attempted to find ways to reassume trust in the agencies involved here. And I appreciate that. In fact, I spoke about it in my opening statement. I talked about how we come to this part. And most people forget that the reason that we have a FISA court now was because of the abuses when left uncontrolled outside of FISA. And I understand on my side and probably on the Democratic side as well, there's a lot of concern about the FISA process, the FISA court. There's a lot of us who have concerns about it in the secretness of it and the way it goes about. But we also have to remember where it came from to start with. It came out of a time in which these agencies had problems. They came together with the Pike and Church committees to actually find a solution, because left unregulated, we also see what happens there as well. The problem is now that we have found it at least to be abused or had problems under a regulated system. So the question is not necessarily, could we do a new committee to say, okay, let's look at this from a wholesale perspective, but more specific questions from your perspective. If you're looking at changing FISA, not the issues that you've talked about and I've agreed upon that need to be re-upped, but in macro level, how can we restore, and you and I have talked about this, how do we macro level restore trust in the American people, in the agencies and in the intelligence agencies? Are there things that should we believe top level officials in the intelligence community can now be trusted to self-police?
I believe the American people can have confidence in the intelligence community as I sit here today. I think there are a number of things that the Inspector General's report identified that should be changed and can be changed and need to be improved, and we've accepted and agreed with every single one of those, but I've gone above and beyond. And so I can't go through my entire list of 40 plus corrective actions here, but they're all designed to improve the process, to improve accountability internally, to improve the rigor, the discipline, the safeguards that exist for that very, very important tool that we rely on every day to keep people all over this country safe.
And I appreciate that, and I think sometimes that's missing in the rhetoric and the discussion here, that you and the Attorney General both have taken corrective action. Now, some of us may not agree they went far enough. We don't believe that maybe some was were not held accountable to a different standard, the euphemistic ways it was discussed in the Horowitz report of mistakes. And I think most Americans don't understand that concept, especially when you're dealing with their civil liberties. One of the issues that has been coming up in this is I'm concerned that many of the FISC, and we'll go to the FISA court here, amicus attorneys appear either conflicted or have taken active positions hostile to, frankly, Republican positions. Why should we trust, again, there's some discussion here, why should we trust amicus attorneys to impartially present a case to the court in favor of civil liberties interests while ignoring affiliations of the surveillance target or political affiliations or even the affiliation with administrations seeking the warrant? Do you, and just as a question for you, do you trust the amicus attorneys to fairly present cases to court? Because that's a big discussion here on is civil liberties actually being protected in a way now into the court system, in the FISA court?
Well, the whole amicus process is the purview of the FISA court itself, and I think it's a mechanism that can, in the right circumstances, be useful as the law was changed, I think, in 2010 to clarify for novel issues of law. We do lots and lots and lots of FISAs that don't raise any remotely controversial issues for any member of this committee all the time, and they're incredibly important. So I would be very leery of entertaining any kind of change that would have all kinds of unintended consequences. We do a lot with FISA to protect this country from the terrorist threat. And as somebody who lived through 9/11 in the FBI building itself, and in my prior DOJ tenure, worked very closely on the 9/11 related investigations, met with the families and everything else, I can assure the members of this committee that we need those FISA authorities. We need the agility to stay ahead of the threat, or we're all going to regret it.
And I think you're right in that. The question comes in the bigger scope of what this committee is having to deal with, and other parts of this committee will have to deal with as well, because the priority of that court comes under this jurisdiction, is the perception now that it has become a problematic process. And you can have 100 very proper, or 99 very proper, non, as you said, unique sense, but that one or two, especially when they have the emphasis that it had in the last 3 to 4 years, does cause a perception issue. And the perception issue is it was a politically motivated event, there was a bias in the process, and no matter how euphemistically the Horowitz report wanted to describe it, there was a problem. I do want to come back to something, though. Did the FBI conduct a Woods review on the Carter Page FISA applications?
Well, again, I would refer you to the Inspector General's report. I don't want to try to characterize exactly what he said about the Woods process in the Carter Page.
But in all due respect, from your agency, you would have seen and have access to these records. And so I'm asking more of a direct question here. Did the FBI conduct a Woods review on the Carter Page FISA application? I'm not asking for the Horowitz report. I'm asking a specific question about this issue.
We have done significant reviews of the materials underlying the Carter Page FISA applications, including a number of steps that we've taken lately to, in effect, claw back the information that was collected under those applications.
And I'm not to push it, but so is that a yes? Was a Woods review done on the Carter Page FISA application?
We've reviewed the Woods file underlying the Carter Page applications.
Okay, so there was a review of, what are the findings of that you can share?
Again, I don't think there's any findings that I can share here today beyond the findings that are in the Inspector General's report.
Okay, so past this, so you've looked at this, you're now saying that you have looked at the Woods review process on this FISA application. Is there concerns that have been brought out? What would be your concerns as the director of the FBI that this would not happen again, especially finding the issues that were found or the lack of issues in the Woods review that goes before this FISA application under Carter Page? This is becoming a setup. So if you have looked at it, how is that compatible with what should have happened, and why have more processes or changes not taken place?
Well, I think a number of the 40-plus corrective actions that I've already directed go to ensuring the rigor and discipline of the Woods process.
Knowing exactly what you said there, let me ask you this, the final and directed question on 2 points here. Number one, knowing what you know because you've looked over the Woods review process for the Carter Page, do you think that it was a properly done investigation, especially given the Woods review of this application to the FISA court? This is you. I'm not talking about the Horowitz report.
I think the report describes conduct that is unacceptable and unrepresentative of the FBI as an institution, and that includes, in a number of respects, ways in which those particular applications were handled.
So you're saying that you agree with that. One last question. Have there been any determination who leaked the page FISA to the press?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear that.
Has there been any determination, or have you determined who leaked the page FISA to the press?
I don't have anything I can share on that.
Could you share in a classified setting?
No, I don't think so.
So we've not determined it. Have we looked?
Again, I can't speak to specific leak investigations or anything of that sort
So is there
here
an
or
ongoing,
otherwise.
are we saying there's an ongoing investigation to that?
No, I'm not saying that.
I yield